हाय गाइस। बेसिकली क्या हुआ कि मैं एक रियल लाइफ ही प्रॉब्लम ले रहा हूँ। हमारे कंपनी में दिस इज हाउ डेटा पॉइंट लुक्स लाइक। सो वी हैव एन IoT। आई एम करंटली एट एन IoT कंपनी Oizom एंड इट इज डूइंग समथिंग विद दिस। Number. And if I want to add anything other than this, I can do that. Number string. So this is how a data point looks like for us. I will just explain you a little bit. So a data point could belong to a certain device with its device type. We don't have to care about the device type here. Device. It could have certain properties like S and D. S represents string and D represents decimal. So we could have a timestamp, which is like epoch in seconds, and then there could be ऑल द पैरामीटर्स के CO2 है तो CO2 का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन क्या था, O3 का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन क्या था, ये डिवाइस ने उस पर्टिकुलर टाइम पे CO2 का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन क्या था, वैसे वैसे। एंड एस देयर कुड बी अदर इन्फॉर्मेशन थिंग्स लाइक वो पर्टिकुलर टाइम स्टैम्प पे वो डिवाइस का लोकेशन क्या था इन स्ट्रिंग, लाइक इट वाज समवेयर इन बेंगलोर और समथिंग। इट कुड बी एनीथिंग लाइक ऐसे जितने भी यूजर को यूजर स्पेसिफिक कुछ भी रखना कि ये डिवाइस में कौन सा सिम कार्ड था तो ही कैन पुट इट हियर, ही कैन डू एनीथिंग व्हाटएवर ही वांट्स, ही कैन ऐड ऑल दोस थिंग्स हियर। नाउ दिस इज हाउ अ डेटा पॉइंट लुक्स लाइक फॉर अस। नाउ द थिंग इज लास्ट टाइम जब ये लोग रिगरस टेस्टिंग कर रहे थे, माय बैकएंड वाज एंटायरली ऑन Node.js एंड द स्टैट्स फॉर डिजिटल ओशन वाज लाइक 2 GB रैम। और उसके अंदर फट गया एक मेरा उसके अंदर there was an issue where I found that it went out of memory, there was too much memory use and stuff. So this time I'm deciding to convert instead of using raw JSON in my JavaScript code, I'm going to try to make this memory efficient, as much memory efficient as possible. So this is, I will just first show you why JavaScript would do something like this. Why is this not memory efficient and why would it matter to JavaScript? So let's first understand that. Basically क्या होता है कि let's say you have a piece of memory. This is how your memory looks like. Okay. Now when you create this object, when you create an object like this, like const a equals object, what happens is this object is stored over here. Now, if I add a property to this object like a1 equals 9 or something, maybe in future if I add, which is probably the case, because if I'm getting the data from database, I'm going to create an object like this, and then in for loop, I'm going to add all these keys and all this stuff. So that is how it works. So let's say if I'm adding something like e1 equals 9, and then a of p73 equals 8, something like this. So this would live somewhere here. This particular piece will live somewhere here. For JavaScript to access something like this, a dot t1, it has to first go here, then it comes to, and finally I get the output 9. The second issue is with the hash maps. So every time you create an object like this, it is behind the scene, it is trying to create a hash map. And if you know anything about hash map, this is something like this, how a hash map is stored. Basically, अगर तुमको पता है तो फिर लोअर लेवल लैंग्वेजेस के अंदर हमारे लोअर लेवल के अंदर हमारे पास सिर्फ और सिर्फ एरेज होता है. We do not have to any other kind of data structure. We create all the data structures from the array. So there is no such thing as hash map. We create hash map. Then this is how we create a hash map. First हम कोई size allocate कर देते हैं एक array को. Okay. And then let's say if you say I want to assign a to 5, something a very big string a b c d e f g h I j, I want to assign this to 5. So what happens is first there is a layer of hashing. This particular key goes to the hash, and then you get an output. Like it could be something like a number 8. Then we check if then this number goes over here, and we check if there is already an element existing over there, because it could be possible that xyz has the same hash as abcdfg h I j, I guess. They both have the same hash for whatever reason. So it could be possible that hash collision ho gaya. So what will we do? And another array is registered, and here a pointer is put. So for xyz यहाँ पर डेटा रहेगा, एंड फिर बाद में हम ABC के लिए यहाँ पर डेटा रखेगा. This is how it works. It looks very complicated, right? And every single time I'm trying to do this a.t, it is not just going there, it is also doing all of this. And when I'm doing this 1 million times, when I have lots and lots of data points and I'm trying to aggregate them, if I'm trying to give them to the front end, all of my functions also have Zod in them. So they basically try to parse it. Each of these cases are going to be parsed. Every time a function exports this, it is going to be parsed. It is going to be validated. All of these cases actually have problems. There is a lot of slowness here. Okay. Here is my proposed solution. This is kind of thing that I actually did for the heat map. Maybe future में मैंने heat map कैसे बनाया था efficiently, उसके बारे में भी बात करेंगे. Our original heat map actually had stats that are very unbelievable, like 16 gigabytes of stats. And then I converted it into new efficient heat map, which literally right now works side by side with the 2 GB RAM that I have on the server. That was also very memory efficient. So right now let's just talk about this one. कि इसको कैसे solve करेंगे हम. यहाँ पर you have to understand कि एक डेटा पॉइंट नहीं हो गया, ऐसे मल्टीपल डेटा पॉइंट्स हो गए, ऐसे मिलियंस ऑफ डेटा पॉइंट्स हो गया. We will have lots and lots of data points. Right? We have to manage this. Okay, one more thing that I didn't talk about was that JavaScript is JavaScript is actually a garbage collected language, so that is also an issue for us. हम जितने objects बना रहे हैं, all these objects that are being created, this object was created, this object was created, this object was created, this was created. All of this is then also registered on the garbage collection. So don't think कि तुम्हारी बस इतनी सी memory use हुई. Actually, for each one of this object that was instantiated, and another memory allocation was given. वो भी manage हो रहा है. कि whenever nobody is using this object, we have to discard this object. That is what garbage collector does. So तुमने जितने object बनाए, just think about it. Let's say I have 1 million objects. Each object can contain up to, let's say, 10 keys. That would be that is going to be so much garbage collection. Like most of my time is going to be on the garbage collection. So to reduce this, if there could be some way for me to allocate a whole lot of information and I can efficiently navigate whenever I want, let's say, what am I doing here? Whenever I want like data points of timestamp dot payload dot g1 or co2 d dot co2 t. I want to do this as much efficiently as possible. Okay, maybe I have a function get, right? I'm doing all of these things. So I want as much efficient functions as possible. So things like it. If I say it, it should get me this thing. Instead of doing all of this, we have to make it as much efficient as possible. So हम बस देख लेते हैं कि कैसे ये हो पाएगा. Let's do that now. हमारा data point ऐसा दिख रहा है. I will just assume for now कि हमारा data point only is this much. This is a redundancy. We don't need this. I will just assume that and build on top of it. Let's first talk about the concept of what is going on, what I'm trying to do. So this is the idea. I'm going to have a timestamp array, a guess array, a label keys and label values and all of this. Basically मैं कुछ भी नहीं करने वाला, बस एक table बना रहा हूँ मैं. Two tables. The first table is for payload.d and second one is for payload.s. All right. We could have t over here and then all the guesses over here, right? So you would think something like an array of array, a table would be array of array, but that will not solve any problem because again, अगर मुझे कुछ भी access करना है तो I have to do something like I and then the G1. It didn't solve that much problems. I'm still creating all of this. I'm still creating hashes and I'm still creating this garbage collection. Each object is separate. They are all not on the same line. So when you're using something like C or Go, you have this opportunity where अगर तुम array बना रहे हो, if you are creating an array, then you can ensure कि array के सारे elements एक ही जगह पे होंगे. But in JavaScript, that's not how it works. You can only ensure कि array के सारे pointers एक जगह पे होंगे. So this is at the same place, and they are going to point to some another place. This is how JavaScript works. Everything is a reference in JavaScript. Whereas when you try to do the same thing in, let's say, C++ or something else, so typically क्या होता है, you have to assign कि भाई कितनी memory होगी. तो behind the scene क्या होगा? This object will expand. It will take this much space. So if I want to do something like array of 0.p1, so C++ exactly knows where this is. It will be here. Before computing anything, before seeing through the object, it knows how to evaluate this. It will be here. So it can directly go there. Whereas in JavaScript, that's not how it works. In JavaScript, you will have a reference. In JavaScript, this will be just a pointer. So code cannot know this ahead of time. It will first go here, and then it will go here, somewhere else. Then it will be an object. And then from there, since I'm again trying to access P1, so that will go again somewhere else. This is also going to be a pointer to somewhere. And finally, I'm getting the output. We are going to try to make this work in JavaScript. There are tools in JavaScript for you to do something like this. It's just a little bit difficult. It's just not there right there for you to do. That's why it seems like a difficult thing, but we will be able to do this. Okay, so first thing is clear. हम इतने सारे ऑब्जेक्ट्स नहीं बनाने वाले. हर एक ऑब्जेक्ट के अंदर T1 T2 P1 P2. This is too much redundancy. We can order all of this P1 P2 P3 in a table. यहाँ पर आइडिया क्या था कि फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्ट के अंदर CO2 है. इट कुड बी पॉसिबल कि भाई A है तो फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्ट के अंदर D T D डॉट नाउ CO2. फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्ट में CO2 है, राइट? Yes. And then in the second object there is no CO2 but instead O2. something like this could happen. That's why this seems a little bit easier on developer experience. So while trying to create this table, we have to ensure that जिस जगह पर see O2 नहीं था यहाँ पर, so we don't put 0 over there, right? We are going to put some another word, some another number that is going to help us understand O2 did not exist there. O2 undefined, something like this. Here CO2 is undefined. Yes, ये वाले केस के अंदर तुम्हारी स्पेस कम यूज होगी, दैट इज ट्रू, बिकॉज जहाँ बहुत सारे डेटा पॉइंट होगी जिसमें O2 नहीं होगा, तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम तुम O2 की स्पेस बचा लोगे, बट दैट्स हाउ मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इज लाइक स्पेस वर्सेस टाइम. तो यहाँ पर टाइम बहुत ज़्यादा यूज हो रहा है. वी विल ट्राई टू डिक्रीज द टाइम. स्पेस वी हैव अ लॉट, सो टाइम वी आर गोइंग टू ट्राई टू डिक्रीज. एंड सी स्पेस भी कम ही होगी बिकॉज बिहाइंड द सीन ये सारा हैश मैप का कोड, ऑल ऑफ दिस विल बी गॉन. सो बिहाइंड द सीन ओवरऑल स्पेस कम ही होने वाली है. दैट इज नॉट एन इशू फॉर अस. Now, what you have to understand is we are not going to store this in array of array. This is not going to be an array of array. What you have to understand is we will look at this as an image. Sorry, we are going to look at this as an image, right? This is an image because this is what is it? It's just list of numbers. यहाँ पर कुछ concentration होगा, यहाँ पर concentration होगा, यहाँ पर concentration. This is just an image. Some places it is going to be empty, but then it is concentration again, right? This is an image. So how are images stored? They are stored in a single array. This is an then sorry, हम ऐसे store करेगा. If you don't understand, then ये हुआ, उसके बाद हम ये लेके, उसके बाद हम ये होगा, उसके बाद ये होगा. So there will be a very long array. This is how we are going to store the data. We are going to do the same thing with S. Here I already know in S, for most of the data points, the value of the S is string, but it is going to be the same. Most of the time it is going to be same. So what I am going to do is values को मैं एक दूसरे array में store करवा दूंगा. Value जो string है उसको मैं एक दूसरे array में store करवा दूंगा. And I am going to store here the indexes of that array. And so that way we can reduce the space the string took at the same time. And again, ये इसको भी हम इसी के जैसे treat करेंगे. So we will also do the same thing. We will have two long arrays. That is it. We are going to have two long arrays. And for that we are going to, and how to manage these two arrays, we are going to have other things for them. And from this arrays we are going to recreate all kind of properties we want. Like you can look at it, get times. So जितने possible time है, ये जो इसको y axis बोल सकते हैं हम इधर पे. तो ये axis जो है, I want to iterate through this axis. I can do that here. I want to get a row or just I just want to get this particular thing, right? मैं ऐसे ही कर देता हूँ. That it will be easier for us. So this is helping us get this iteration. Then this function will help us get ith object. Then this function will help us get from time to index. If there is and if this time actually exists on y-axis, then it will get us the index of that axis. Otherwise, it will not. Then we can add a time. We can remove a time. So we can delete an entire row, or we can insert an entire row. We can freeze the time. So now no longer the mutations will be accepted on this axis. This could help us to improve memory if we want to. I'm probably not going to just create a. I will just create a blockage here. But if we do want to go even further, we can add more optimizations. Then to get all the guesses, I can do this. So the same thing. If I want to iterate over this axis, if I want to iterate over this axis, right, column axis, I can have that iteration as well. Same kind of things like add guess, remove guess, freeze guesses. So freeze this particular direction, get guess at, get index of, all of those things. Now the same thing is going here also. कि लेबल के अंदर मुझे कॉलम्स के ऊपर इटरेट करना हो, सेम चीज़ है, राइट? ये सब इटरेशंस है. Add label, remove label, freeze labels. This is all great. Now this is how a data point looks like for us. So if I want to convert it back to the JSON, if I want to convert this ith row, if I want this ith row back in the JSON form, I can do that from this function. I can pass in which timestamp I want. Timestamp index I want to convert to the JSON, and I can get it with the JSON, right? Now get all concentrations at ith index. So this will help me iterate over. Just going to do a little bit control Z. Okay. This is going to help me iterate over this any kind of row. I can iterate over any row I want to. This is what this particular function helped me with. I can also pass in only existing. That way I can skip over the parameters that do not exist in that particular row. That would be awesome. And then get all labels at the same thing, but in this particular table. It helps me. Then get the concentration at. Then I can do get concentration at. So basically, if I directly want to access a particular cell, I can use this particular API. If I want to edit that cell, delete that cell, I can do that. Same thing goes for this particular table as well. Then there are just lengths, like how many rows I have, columns I have. Same thing. If I want to convert it back to the JSON, I can do that also. If I want to convert it into a minified stringy version of JSON, in case if I have a millions of data and I do not want to convert it into JSON, that would be very expensive. So maybe if I want, I'm going to implement a more efficient way of JSONifying this entire thing. We're going to do that also. And in case we want to get memory, how much memory we are using, we will just add stats to that. Okay. So This is what we want to create, and we are going to create it in this particular class. In the next video, I will show you how I'm going to create it. We will actually see it together, how I'm trying to code and everything. And from the next video, I'm starting the coding of this thing. So no more talking and all that. Okay, thanks.